41,000 feet above the Earth, a modern jet carrying 69 people suddenly loses all power. Engines dead, lights out, a Boeing 767 turning into a silent glider. This is no movie. This is the real story of Air Canada Flight 143, the Gimli Glider. This was Air Canada Flight 143, later remembered by the world as the Gimli Glider. The flight was scheduled from Montreal to Edmonton, with a stop in Ottawa. In the cockpit sat Captain Robert Pearson and First Officer Maurice Quintal. Both were experienced pilots. But that day they would face a challenge no one had ever trained for. The problem began long before takeoff. Air Canada had recently switched to the metric system because of a simple confusion between pounds and kilograms. The aircraft had been loaded with only half the fuel it needed. No one realized the mistake. At 41,000 feet, the first engine suddenly failed. Just moments later, the second engine also shut down. The unthinkable had happened. Both engines were dead. The Boeing 767, weighing more than 130 tons, had now become a glider. Inside the cabin, the lights went dark. The sound of engines vanished, replaced only by the rush of wind. Passengers stared in shock, realizing something had gone terribly wrong. With the engines gone, most of the hydraulic systems were also lost. Normally, that would make the aircraft impossible to control. But the 767 had a special backup system, powered only by the air rushing over the plane. That small system gave the pilots just enough control to keep flying. Captain Pearson, who also happened to be a skilled glider pilot, took command. First Officer Quintal quickly calculated their options. Reaching Winnipeg was impossible. But he remembered a small, abandoned Royal Canadian Air Force base at a place called Gimli. What neither pilot knew was that the base had since been turned into a motor racetrack. And on that very day, it was packed with families enjoying an event. As the powerless aircraft approached Gimli, it was still too high and too fast. Captain Pearson made a bold decision. He used a maneuver called the side slip, common in small gliders, but almost never attempted in a giant passenger jet. The aircraft tilted dangerously to one side as it lost altitude quickly. On the ground, spectators looked up in shock. A massive jetliner was silently falling toward them. At 1,000 feet, there was no turning back. The aircraft slammed onto the runway with a thunderous impact. The front landing gear collapsed instantly, and the nose of the plane scraped violently across the tarmac. Sparks flew as metal ground against the concrete, and then the aircraft came to a stop, just meters away from the crowd. Miraculously, every single person on board survived. Only a handful suffered minor injuries. The investigation that followed revealed the truth. The accident was caused by a simple fuel miscalculation. The airline had switched to metric units, but the fueling was done in pounds instead of kilograms. As a result, the plane carried only half the required fuel. At first, the pilots were criticized for failing to follow certain procedures. But over time, the world recognized what they had truly accomplished. Captain Pearson and First Officer Quintal had saved 69 lives with calmness, skill, and remarkable decision-making under impossible conditions. The story of the Gimli Glider is not just about a fuel error. It is about human courage in the face of disaster. It reminds us that when technology fails, determination and experience can still make the difference between tragedy and survival. A jetliner fell silent in the skies, and 2 pilots refused to give up.